The vision for NYU Abu Dhabi that was jointly arrived at and articulated by Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, and then President of NYU, John Saxon, was magnificent. It was so magnificent, it was almost hard to imagine it could be real. I love Abu Dhabi. You get a sense of that youthful energy in the very way the country is populated.
So you guys want to give it a try, maybe this week?
Since we began to run programs here in 2007, 12, 13 years ago, we have been part of the history of this country for 25% of the history of the UAE.
Or you could just bow and
Or just be like, thank you.
force them into.
And so we are similarly dynamic.
And just thinking about what does it look like to write about the middle class.
I think that articulates the problem of maybe there really isn't a literature of middle class.
One of the great novelties that NYU Abu Dhabi has brought into the UAE is a liberal arts education, and a particularly innovative one.
Growing up in the UAE has kind of shown me how much a country can change in such a short period of time. And that gives me hope that we can mold society, the economy, the world in whatever way we see fit. And I think coming to NYUAD showed me a very important lesson, that I didn't know all the answers. We listen to others and that we accept that sometimes we are wrong, so that we can learn from that.
NYU Abu Dhabi's mission was a fully international university that would grant degrees of its home institution, New York University in our case. Then the interesting question became, well, if you do that, what should that education look like? You want to draw the impulses from the region that are interesting and dynamic and new, and the old heritage things to be brought in.
I was myself dealing with questions of, let's say, identity and belief and skepticism. And so to find that the university could take those interests of mine that I paid attention to outside of classes and provide the framework for me was really inspirational.
I am a poet, a practicing artist, a writer, and I graduated from NYU Abu Dhabi in 2018. I'm still very much connected with NYU Abu Dhabi. It's still very much a part of me.
Hi, how are you? I'm well, how are you?
The more I took these literature and creative writing classes, the more I realized that I should be majoring in this, that this is also a huge part of who I am and what I want to be.
For me, the question wasn't about how can I write about the UAE, it was more, what are the gaps that a work like mine could fill?
Once I graduated, I carved an identity for myself that has NYUAD as a big part of it, but also is independent of the university, because that's what the university is supposed to do, right? It's supposed to teach you to be your own person.
When I first came to the university, I thought I knew more than I did, and so discovering those lessons that are both humbling and empowering has changed me.
They share a certain idealism about being able to use their knowledge, their skills, and the networks that they develop at NYU Abu Dhabi to make better worlds.
I had the honor of winning one of the UAE Rhodes Scholarships for the year 2020, and as a result, I was given a grant to study at the University of Oxford for 2 years. And the program which I applied for prioritizes things like inclusive growth, like the creation of institutions that promote social mobility, education, better labor policies. Having spent around a month at Oxford, I have to admit that it's still pretty surreal. Just getting to walk around the city with really old buildings from the 12th and 13th century gets me thinking about all the famous fantasy books that have been inspired by the city. And one thing about the UK is that it rains a lot and it's pretty cloudy. And I'm a big fan of that. So NYUAD has been pretty successful at getting Rhodes Scholars. So I'm currently doing the MSc in Economics for Development. Looking back, I think there are a couple of professors that kind of pushed me to study economics. One conversation that always sticks with me is with a professor that said something like, if you study economics, think about not going into finance and trying to take in the field as a whole and dedicating time to understanding it. And that first pushed me, I think, to thinking about graduate school, doing a master's and then potentially maybe a PhD.
And of course, they also go into more traditional industries. But I like to say they do it with a difference. Because what unites all of our students is that they don't just want to do well, they also want to do good.
To anyone who's thinking of applying to NYUAD, I just say, think of what you want to be. Are you thinking about it? NYUAD can make you become that.